Welcome back to the New Equity Network show. I'm Michael Yorba with co-host Jared Fabriello. We're talking to Richard Groome, President, CEO, Urban Barns Foods, on the show with us today. Richard, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mine too. All right, Richard, before we get started, give us a little background on what you've done. Great, successful entrepreneur history, and then we can get right into what Urban Barn Foods does for us.
Okay. My background, Michael, is largely in financing emerging growth and startup companies. I started and co-founded two investment banking and brokerage firms over the last 30 years. I'm 56 years of age, and we funded many hundreds of Canadian and American companies over the years in food, beverage, oil, gas, technology, and software. And when Urban Barns knocked on the door through a referral, I was extremely intrigued, and here we are today.
All right. Let's talk about Urban Barn Foods. Excuse me, I'm not pronouncing it properly. Urban Barns, plural, foods. Let's talk about what they do. And your symbol, right, is URVF. Did I get that correct?
URB like Bob, F like Frank.
Thank you very much.
On the OTC, fully reporting issuer.
Okay.
So what do we do? Michael, we are in what we call controlled environment agriculture, and we've developed a process called cubic farming. And cubic farming essentially is an automated growing machine that uses the vertical space as well as the horizontal space in a building. We don't use the sun, and we don't grow outdoors, and we don't use the systems that are used by greenhouses. And essentially, we can produce yields of anywhere from 50 to 250 times that of a regular farm, and at least 100 times that of a greenhouse. And we're starting with leafy green vegetables, and people can have a look at our website and see the cubic farming machines. It's really a revolution in that growing in controlled environment agriculture, we're not subject to huge variances in temperatures. So when we have a freeze, the plants don't die. There's no subject to hailstorms, or big rainstorms, or droughts for that matter. You're well aware of the current drought in California, which produces greater than 50% of all our fresh produce. So we actually use 96% less water as it stands now than an average farm for our lettuce, for instance. So in a controlled environment agriculture, we give the plants the perfect temperature, the perfect humidity, and the perfect amount of light. And we grow using LED lights instead of the sunlight. And of course, in a controlled environment, as plants need to create the photosynthesis process, the plants really don't care whether it's a sodium light, a incandescent light, or a sunlight, or an LED light. And with the advancement of LEDs over the past 3 to 5 years, science has really started to come on strong in terms of researching each and every plant and how it grows. And what we're finding, Michael, is that as we switch and modify the spectrum of lights, we can actually increase the nutritional value of plants as well as speed up the growth. And of course, we do not use any pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides, and we don't use any genetically modified seeds or products. That is a definite no-no in our DNA and our culture.
You also decrease the amount of carbon footprint. Talk to us about that.
Well, no disrespect for current methods, but growing, kale or lettuce or different types of spinach in one part of the country and shipping it 3,000 to 5,000 miles to another part of the country for consumption, in our opinion, it doesn't make any sense anymore. The cost of the product is now equal to or greater than the cost of the transportation. So when we're looking at the cost of a product, let's say for argument's sake, FOB Salinas Valley, California, where most of the lettuce is grown, you're looking at a transportation cost equal to the product cost. So even if that truck, when it's ready to go, takes between 4 and 7 days, depending on storms and routes and logistics, our products at Urban Barns are picked just in time. Our business model is to pick between 8 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning and 12 noon, and then ship everything out to the clients in the afternoon. So they get a live product because we're shipping with our roots on, and they get it the same day it was picked. So it's simply extraordinary.
Wow, that is impressive. You are going to change the face of agriculture. Jared has a question for you.
Yeah, I was wondering, are you building these as self-contained units, or are you going into existing buildings and installing them for customers?
Jared, that's a really good question. So in phase one of our development, after we've been at this for 5 years, and our two founders, one of them has a extensive third-generation family background in seed propagation. And the original farm was set up in Vancouver, British Columbia, out in Langley, and that was in the back of a greenhouse. So what we did is we learned a tremendous amount of do's and don'ts when you're set up in an existing facility. So bottom line is where the building and the location of our next plant happens to be a food-grade plant with food-grade walls that are acceptable to the FDA and USDA standards, we will seriously look at retrofitting that building to our needs. For instance, our first cubic farm that we set up was in Montreal, Canada, just outside of Montreal in a place called Mirabel. And we got lucky in finding a building that was actually a tomato storage facility, so it was actually perfect. And it had all the food-grade walls installed already. And so we will retrofit depending on location and, of course, costs. Local costs vary. However, in our build-out models, ideally we would find a real estate partner and we would build a brand-new building because in each building we'd like to have between 4 and 10 specific self-controlled growing cells, whereby we'd put between 4 and 8 machines in each cell, because lettuce grows at different temperatures than kale, that grows at different temperatures than basil. For instance, basil, there's a high demand for basil that's grown locally, and they need much higher temperatures than a lettuce would.
Right. Go ahead, Jared.
Can you talk a little bit about the lifespan of the machines and the upkeep? Is it expensive? How long do they last?
Well, that's a good question. The machines we're producing with now are what we call Generation 3 machines, pardon me. And the Generation 3 machine has been developed by our original seed propagation partners out in Western Canada. And we've now, and we're producing product with those machines today. And those machines are fitted up with cables that are on a spool, and it's similar to a rotisserie, actually, if you're looking for a comparable. And the next generation machine is about 8 times bigger in terms of production capacity, and we've got it retrofitted with a state-of-the-art stainless steel chain. So that machine is complete state-of-the-art stainless steel. We would expect it to a reasonable duration and lifetime for between 15 and 20, 25 years at least.
That's pretty good. Now, you also have a Kosher Certification. What does that mean?
Well, in North America, there are certain communities, believe it or not only Jewish communities, but there are also segments of the Christian communities and other communities that prefer to buy kosher graded food because they think and they know that it's double-checked and triple-checked by a third-party source other than a government or other than the company themselves. So in our case, with lettuce, we're very proud and very excited that MK Kosher Certification, based in Montreal, have tested our products on numerous occasions, and they look for bugs and they look for infestations of thrips and different types of mites and whatnot. And touch wood, we've received that certification in late November, early December, and we are ranked amongst the cleanest food that money can buy from the green leafy vegetable category of food. So we're now selling kosher-approved product in Montreal, and we're expanding that into other regions. Our intention is to go into Ontario as well as New York State.
Wow. Let's take a break right now, and Richard, and we'll come back on the other side. I want to get further into the consumers, the chefs, and other areas of expansion for the company. All right?
Yep.
All right, we'll be right back on the other side of this break with Richard Groome, President, CEO, Urban Barns Food, and symbol is URBF. You've been listening to the New Equity Network show with Michael Yorba and Jared Fabriello.